of our church. Some people like to say the future of the church, but they mean more than that. They're very much an important part of us now. And so this is a way to send love and appreciation for them. As you know, many of them graduate from high school and never again return to the church. So we have an opportunity to share love and support by attending this luncheon immediately after the service. And that keeps you from having to hit the restaurants or go home and do something there. If you have a graduate and you would like for us to recognize that graduate, the last day to do that is today. And let us know so that we can recognize an important graduate that maybe we have forgotten. We don't want to forget anybody. I'd like to also remind you that if you're a first-time guest, or if you have new information that we don't know about, telephone number change, address change, or something, fill out this guest card and let us know. We want to be sure that we have your contact information so we can stay in touch with everybody. Especially first-time guests, we'd love for you to do that for us today. We have something that is not in your bulletin, and it is a Blue Ghost adventure outing. We don't know when this will take place because blue ghosts are blue ghost fireflies are somewhat unpredictable. If you don't know what blue ghost fireflies are, they're unique. They're like fireflies except for they're blue, and they're located in certain areas in these Blue Ridge Mountains. And we're attempting an outing. It'll be a later than usual outing. So we're kind of shooting for this Friday. The place is yet to be determined. So if you're interested, we would probably gather around 8 p.m. with light refreshments and then stay up later than maybe you're accustomed to. We would probably wrap it up around the 11:30 p.m. hour. You should be back home by then if you could manage that. We have a sign-up sheet if you're interested. There's more information you don't know about this because we've got to figure out if they're out and where they're located. It's very unpredictable. But if you're interested in that kind of outing on a Friday, either this Friday or next Friday or maybe both, Juanita Brown, raise your hand, Juanita. She has the sign-up form. So if you're interested in that late evening outing, please see Juanita after the service this morning and we'll get you signed up for that. Our parking lot is going to be repaired next week, so be mindful of that. When I say parking lot, I mean the parking lot directly behind me will be not resurfaced, but it will be coated, and all the cracks will be filled, and it will be unavailable for several days next week, especially during the middle of the week for choir practice and other things. And the parking lot that's directly to my left in the back of the church also will be under repair. So those will be out of commission beginning on Tuesday morning. So if you have plans around the church, just be mindful that parking will be limited. Of course, all the parking spaces out in the town do not belong to us. So you feel free to use those parking areas. The Liberia mission trip, today is the last day that you can make donations to that, and that's all listed in the bulletin. We certainly want to support Linda as she goes and Kathleen as they go to Liberia and represent us. So one way you can support them is to look at the list and figure out what you can contribute. And if you can get that to us today, that's wonderful. There's a Rise Against Hunger. And you know that there are more and more people with inflation rising and grocery prices rising. This is going to be a greater and greater need, not just in other places in the world, but also among us. By the way, we have a box located in the back of the church near the church garden. I don't know if you're aware of this, But Kathy is the one that basically maintains that box, making sure that stuff's there. But that box gets empty almost every day. Almost every day. So if you're riding by the church and you've got a couple spare cans of something, that box is located there. It's open 24 hours a day, and people use it increasingly. Increasingly, that number of people using that box continues to rise. There's a Chrismon ornament work day, and that information is listed. And I believe Marilyn Robinson is in charge of that. Raise your hand, Marilyn, if you're interested in ornament work creation. You can see Marilyn, and she'll be glad to give you more information that you might need. Well, that's a lot. And so why don't we just take just a brief moment to relax and pay attention to our breathing. And may gratitude for this moment fill our hearts as we worship together. We're so glad you're here.
Good morning. Please join me in the call to worship printed in your bulletin. We have come today looking for joy and hope in another week of fatigue and heart distress. Scripture tells us that joy is found in your presence. We find that joy, sometimes even your presence, elusive at times. But still we come, we are here, and we hope. Help us to hear a word, feel a moment, trust in the truth. Amen.
Please join me in prayer. Loving and kind Father, we come into your presence here today to hear the message that you have for us. We come to fellowship with one another and to sing hymns of praise for your many blessings. We want to experience the joy that we have in you, Lord. You've told us that the joy of the Lord is our strength. We long for that joy and not the sorrow of the world. Nehemiah 8:10 tells us that joy is not merely an emotion, but a spiritual resource. By relying on you as our source of joy, we can gain strength to overcome discouragement, maintain hope, and live with faith. We long for this joy in this time of darkness. You've told us in Philippians 4:4 to rejoice in you always. We are called to a deep, abiding joy rooted in our relationship with you and not dependent on circumstances. In Colossians 3, it says to let your peace rule in our hearts, to be thankful, to sing to you with gratitude in our hearts, and to have joy always. Lord, let it be so. The more we lean on you, the more we obtain the fruits of your Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. Amen.
Our first hymn is number 371 in your hymnal. And if you would look down towards the bottom right of that hymn, you'll see that there's something that's written there called Land of Rest. Land of Rest is the tune name for this hymn, and it's a hymn that comes to us from early American hymnody. It's one of these hymns that is a part of the shape note tradition that was going on in the early to mid 1800s, and a little bit beyond that, probably even. And it would have been found in hymnals like the Sacred Harp or Southern Harmony. They were the oblong shape note hymnals. So you're going to be going back in time when you sing this hymn a little bit, although the words are written by a contemporary person, Brian Wren, who was professor of hymnody at Southwestern Seminary in Dallas. Let's stand together as we sing, "I Come with Joy to Meet My Lord." Stand as you're able.
Pray with me. As we are being reminded today, our lives are fully secure in you, and our deepest joy is found simply in your abiding presence. Everything that we have is a gift from your hand. We gladly return a small portion of it now, asking that you bless these offerings and these gifts and use them to expand hope and comfort and community to those who need it most. Amen.
The reading today is Psalm 16:11. You will teach me how to live a holy life. Being with you will fill me with joy. At your right hand, I will find pleasure forever.
Okay, that's it. Let's go home. No reason to hang out. You know, right after college, I traveled with a band for 4 years. And I was doing keyboards and singing and running the sound system over here. The mixing board was over here. And the number of times people came up to me and said, "Well, you must not be a real Christian. You don't smile a lot." I think the jury's still out. Paul Brawley gave me this downturned mouth that I've not been able to do anything with. Well, nothing that we can talk about here. Since Jesus came into my heart. You know what? I love that song. But that floods of joy over my soul like the sea billows roll, that is not always true for me. Case in point, I caught something a couple weeks ago, which I'm sure you're still hearing a touch of this morning. It was like a cold on steroids. I had this severe sore throat. I kept thinking it must be strep. But before I could talk myself out of that, I had a headache that made me think possibly I was having a high blood pressure stroke, except I still had all my extremities. And the headache couldn't be touched by any quantity of legal drugs. Not that I tried anything else. And then a runny nose that would wake me up at night. I've never had my nose wake me up saying, "I think I'll run for a while." Culminating in a racking cough that challenged all the bladder control I could muster. You know what that's like. I still don't trust it. And all of that was in like 72 hours. It was the most intense cold-like thing I've ever experienced. And Jennifer and Tommy gave it to me, thank you, so they know what I'm talking about. And I have to confess that sometimes that's what my life feels like these days. The bad news just keeps mutating and coming in waves. The attempted distractions, so I won't focus on the inhumane treatment of illegally incarcerated people. How many of us have been kept up nights wondering about UFOs? And now we're so relieved at the new information that's been made public. Has anybody looked at that information? No, nobody has. If it's not another threat to blow up an entire civilization who happens to worship differently, it's hiding $1 billion in a reconciliation bill in order to build a useless monument to narcissism. Not that I have any strong opinions. The price of gas at the pump is now literally causing some people to have to choose whether they can get to work tomorrow or feed the kids tonight. We can't keep food in that little pantry Tommy mentioned. And one of my favorites, hundreds of thousands of people are dead and dying because USAID and SNAP and Medicaid have been shuttered and attacked. But we have enough money to bomb people that we don't know to the tune of $1 billion a day. Great news for international relationships, I might add. I don't know about you, but my brain is exhausted. Our hearts hurt on a daily basis. And our spirits question where the divine might be in all of this. And then there comes today's Bible passage. Are you kidding me? Joy? In your presence is abundant joy. At your right hand are eternal pleasures. Really? And by the way, in most translations, I read through all the translations of this verse, looking for an out, I guess. In most of the verses, in most of the translations, there were these three things: living God's way, joy in the presence of God, and pleasures in the right hand of God, which makes me call the question, what is in God's left hand? Really. I went to my favorite Bible commentary by Noah Webster, the dictionary. He defines joy as the feeling of happiness and pleasure, or the expression of that emotion. So then I looked up joy, or happiness. Happiness is a state of well-being or contentment. See joy. Some people say that joy and happiness are two different things. That happiness is based on external circumstances, as in everything is going smoothly for me, and so I can be happy. And joy originates internally and is actually a fruit of the Spirit, which is true. In Galatians 5, I think it is. It's the second one mentioned, love, joy, peace, patience, etc. One writer I read even stated that joy is a choice to trust God's presence with us. I was still looking through those translations, looking for something. And then I found one. In the Living Bible, it reads this way: "You have let me experience the joys of life, the exquisite pleasures of your own eternal presence." You have let me experience the joys of life, the exquisite pleasures of your own eternal presence. What are those joys? What's he talking about? I'm assuming it's a he. I've been thinking about this for a couple of weeks now. What are these joys of life that I have experienced? Here's some of what I've been noticing. When's the last time you giggled with a 4-year-old? Or a 24-year-old? Actually, if you'd like to giggle with some 74-year-olds, you should come on Tuesday morning. We write postcards to the government. There is some serious giggling. Not all of it spiritual, probably, but anyway, there's some happiness going on. This is my third spring in my new 45-year-old house. And every spring so far, these bright green sword-like leaves have popped up out of the ground, and they just stick around most of the summer. I keep waiting for something else to happen, and nothing ever happens. And I think, well, they're pretty. Unassuming, not profoundly different from all the other green stuff on that hillside. I walked off my deck about 10 days ago, and I heard myself say, "Oh, hi!" There was the most gorgeous purple and white iris blooming in the middle of those green swords. And it had 5 different stalks on it with the promise of at least 20 more blooms, which subsequently have not disappointed. It was an immediate joy. It set the tone for maybe the whole last 2 weeks, I'm not sure. Down on the Cane River, which is just below my house, there was a geese couple who for the past few years have made a nest out on a little island in the middle of the river, only to have the first serious big spring rain come along and decimate the nest and wash away any eggs that might have been there. And they were the only couple down there, never having had a flock of their own. And every spring there was this momentary grief as I watched them building the nest, knowing full well what was going to happen. Now, after Helene, most of the geese in that area have relocated away from the bank. But right now there is a geese couple down there with 3 babies learning about their paddle feet. And they've grown to the point of beginning to lose that fuzz. They all look like children with bad haircuts. And I swear it's got to be the same couple, because the storm washed away their little island, and they had to manage to put their nest someplace safer, where this year they have 3 eggs. And they seem so happy every time I see them. And when I see them, I'm so happy. And yes, I stop and talk to them and tell them what a beautiful family they have, and you know. Bill spoke last week of the struggle between our doing and our being. We are driven by our doing. Our doing mode has us always aware of the discrepancies between what is and what we hoped would be, or what we planned would be. We're always going around trying to change this discrepancy and solve the dissonance that is there. Now, extrapolate that out of our private lives and apply it to the world around us as well, the way things should be or could be or used to be when we appeared to be kinder and gentler and more caring people. It's so easy these days to be spinning our wheels, trying to right all the wrongs, the ones that we have no power to affect. I do this constantly. It's almost the undercurrent music of my life. How do I begin to make up for the difference for the number of people who we used to feed around the world? And this process leads to great dissatisfaction and not joy, even so far as to going to grief and despair. Now, true, it's our doing that helps us get things done, but it seldom reveals those joys of life. Our being mode, as in human being, is very experiential. It is allowing reality to be what it is without any immediate pressure to change it. It's giving our attention to the richness. It's feeling the depth of the moment. It's noticing the things that are right and are good and are the way things are supposed to be. Those iris blooms on my bank are passed 100 times any given day by people in my neighborhood. They're not stopping by to look and be present. They probably don't even know. It's not their fault, per se. And everybody driving down, skirting the edge of the Cane River, they're going somewhere else. They're not looking for my geese. My geese, you notice I've claimed them. But I'm looking for my geese. I'm finding I am desperate for the joys of life. I will confess that the winter of 2025, last winter, I was more than a little depressed as I watched the reality unfold that racism and xenophobia and homophobia and sexism had not been overcome in this country. It had not been exacerbated, not eradicated. I'm saying it was exacerbated, but not eradicated, not even a little bit. I was seeing nothing of that spirit of the divine having transformed as I watched things crumble. I had fantasized that we were better than this. It became obvious that we were sorely in need of something. What if joy is a combination of how we feel inside and how we choose to view the world? Some of the things we see, especially the things in Washington, but literally all around us, are the antithesis of joy. That circus in Washington, those are not my clowns. But they are also not the big top. Oh, the effects of what they're doing will take decades to undo, and I, again, have no direct power to do anything there. I can vote, I can write my postcards, I can make phone calls, but it's not in my realm of influence. How I choose to see the world, not with blinders on, but focusing on the things that can give joy. That is what will give me strength to get up and put my shoes on every morning. I am not a podcast person. I was going to say I'm weary of other voices in my head, and that'll make it sound like I have voices in my head a lot. I am a little picky about the ones I give my attention to. But a couple weeks ago, there was one with Kate Bowler, Sarah Bessie, and Nadia Bowles-Weber. The Spirit compelled me. That or the estrogen. And sometimes the two are indistinguishable, by the way. Anyway, these women were talking about joy. Kate's just written a new book entitled Joy Anyway. And as they were talking, they agreed that the Spirit of God is evident in their kitchen as much as it is in the cathedral. That the Spirit of God is in the food pantry as nearly and as dearly as it is in the mountains. That joy can be found in the sewing circle or the postcard writing circle, as well as in the morning service. The realm of God is within us. Jesus said so. And beyond that, we live in the very presence of God, whether we're aware of it or not. It's in Acts where Paul refers to the fact that the one in whom we live and move and have our being. Now, one of my favorite old dead people is a guy named Brother Lawrence. And he wrote a little volume called Practicing the Presence of God. That's an interesting title, Practicing the Presence of God. We practice those things we want to excel at. You can't get good at piano without practicing. An hour a day, Jane Brawley. Right? You can't get better at the flute. You can't play baseball well. You can't play golf well. You can't do anything really without serious practice. Brother Lawrence practiced knowing God's presence and his place within it while he washed dishes at the monastery where he lived. He developed a habit of seeing and being with God at every turn, in every place. You have let me experience the joys of life, the exquisite pleasures of your own eternal presence. We've already sung a couple songs and had sung to us songs about joy. There's one that I just hate, if that's possible. Can I say that from a pulpit? The joy of the Lord is my strength. The second verse says, if you want joy, you should ask for it, like it's a commodity. It's not that we need joy given to us. It's that we have to develop our awareness of the presence of God and the joys that are all around us. And then the third verse of that song, by the way, is the most despicable. Ha, 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 ha. Did I do that? It's not in my notes. Intentionality, practice. What is it we can do to develop our awareness of the joys of life around us? And what can we do to help us practice the presence of God? I'm glad you asked. I got a few things. The first one is to practice gratitude. Again, practice. Say out loud. Say that thank you out loud as you're driving along and you see a sunset that just wipes you out. Or a flower garden that's well tended. Or the fact that you avoided that accident. Or even the fact that you managed to show up for your meeting only 5 minutes late. Say it out loud. Practice gratitude. Build strong relationships with people, yes, but also with animals and with vegetable and mineral and plant life. I have to tell you, I don't know anybody who has ever looked at me the way my dog used to when I would come home from being gone, whether it was 10 days or 10 minutes. Connect, build strong relationships My Iris and I are on first name basis, by the way. So practice gratitude, build strong relationships, live in the moment. Pull off the road and take it in. Don't just drive by going, oh, I wish I could. Notice that funny kid in the grocery store. You know, the one that's always putting extra things in their grocery cart. Notice that and enjoy that little person. Come stare at my irises. Drop what you're doing and go for coffee with that person you've been wanting to have coffee with for weeks. Friday, as I was typing this from indecipherable script onto the computer, I saw a newsletter pop up from a former student who has been a missionary in Colombia for 20 years with her Colombian husband, and they happen to be, I've been meaning to call her actually ever since ICE invaded Minneapolis, where they've been living on home assignment this year. I picked up the phone and called her. Right then I thought, wait a minute, practice what you preach, woman. Live in the moment. Do it. A fourth thing you can do is find habits that make you feel joyful. Spend time with things that matter to you. People, clay, music, trees. I went on that sacred pilgrimage we had this last week to Painter's Nursery and bought unlimited beauty to put on my deck. And then I realized it was the tradition of my mother and her mother before her. And I even bought some of the same varieties. I smile and sense the joy of life, both in my flowers and in those memories. At least I smiled most of the day yesterday when I was planting them all. And the last one, find ways to put your love into action. That's the good kind of doing. Sometimes for me, it's writing a postcard, speaking truth to power. Sometimes it's writing a check to those people working with immigration or feeding the hungry. Some days it's just putting more food in that tiny pantry out back. It's a different form of gratitude, an evidence of living in the moment. From Mary Oliver, a poem called Mindful. Every day I see or I hear something that more or less kills me with delight, that leaves me like a needle in a haystack of light. It is what I was born for, to look, to listen, to lose myself inside this soft world, to instruct myself over and over in joy and acclamation. Nor am I talking about the exceptional, the fearful, the dreadful, the very extravagant, but the very ordinary, the common, the very drab, the daily presentations. Oh, good scholar, I say to myself, how can you help but grow wise with such teachings as these, the untrimmable light of the world, the oceans shine, the prayers that are made out of grass. You have let me experience the joys of life, the exquisite pleasures of your own eternal presence. What more do we need for the week ahead?
We can experience the presence of God nearly every day, any day, in this present time, but there will be a day when we experience that joy inexpressible and full of glory when we see and meet Jesus face to face. Our hymn is 514, When We All Get to Heaven. And you Baptists out there, you all know this song, so let's stand together, raise the roof.
Sing the wondrous love of Jesus, sing his mercy He'll prepare for us a place when we all get to heaven. What a day of rejoicing that will be when we all see Jesus. We'll sing and shout the victory. While we walk the pilgrim pathway, clouds will overspread the sky. But when traveling days are over, not a shadow, not a sign. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory. Let us then be true and faithful, trusting, serving every day. Just one glimpse of Him in glory will the toils of life repay. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory. Onward to the prize before us, soon His beauty will behold. Soon the pearly gates will open, we shall tread the streets of gold. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory.
It doesn't have to be the blue iris. It could be weeds in a vacant lot or a few small stones. Just pay attention. Then patch a few words together and don't try to make them elaborate. This isn't a contest, but the doorway into thanks and a silence in which another voice may speak. Go in peace.